Oklahoma dispatched of Cleveland State and Oregon in regional action. Boston was taken out by Oregon themselves. The Sooners didn't have to face the Terriers, and now it's on to a massive super regional tilt. 2-seeded Oklahoma, 15-seeded Florida State. These two teams have closed the college softball season 2 of the previous 3 years. They met in the 2021 WCWS Champ Series, and obviously Oklahoma knocked off the Seminoles again last year for their 3rd straight national title. They will meet at Love's Field this weekend, and I've got a very special guest joining us to break it all down. The man himself, the sound of OU softball, Chris Plank, hopping aboard on the OU Softball Show. Come along this ride with us. Welcome in, OU Softball Show, and my guest that's right over here. If you're watching this show, you know who he is, but we'll do the thing. It is the nicest man in Oklahoma media, probably in media at large. I think Chris is going to die on the radio because he does like 7 billion shows here, there, and everywhere. But most importantly, to you at home and to me, he is my Raiders therapy group chat. It's the great Chris Plank, the voice of OU softball. Chris, thanks so much for hopping on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Sorry if the levels are a little bit screwed up. I'm an audio nerd, so I'm very upset by not having the best of the best for you, Ryan, and allsooners.com. But I'm still trying to get excited about the idea of an Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew combo at quarterback right now. If there's a magical way that Tom Brady could come back, or Derek Carr wants to come back, I'll take it right now. But yeah, I'm pumped, man. This is the best time of the year. This is for what you do and what for we do with softball. It's the best. You can't ask for anything better.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this with like Thunder playoff time on, I'm sure, radio all over the place, that Oklahoma City feels like it's alive when the Thunder in the playoffs and rolling.
Right.
Norman, Oklahoma is alive right now with basically that corner between what Skip and crew are doing baseball wise. They're going to host a regional next weekend. Oklahoma this weekend got supers, and Chris, from the moment the bracket came out, we knew this was a possibility. Very, very familiar opponents. Oklahoma, Florida State, Thursday, Friday, if game on Saturday. 2 of the last 3 seasons, the softball world has ended watching these 2 teams play for a national championship. Kind of fitting that it's the Seminoles going to be the first Supers opponent hosted at Love's Field.
Yeah, it really truly is. And I feel like every year, Ryan, I'm told that we're going to play on Thursday for the Super Regionals. And it's kind of funny because we even talked about it on the radio network side. And I had to laugh because, like, the diehards who have been with us for a while, they're probably saying, you say this every year. You say this every year that we're going to play on a Thursday. And it happened. I don't think it's happened since 16, but it's funny because I look back on the 16 notes and I don't remember that being a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I do not. I remember that being a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But this is only then the 3rd time in program history that they've had this set up with Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I talked to Coach today. I know that as we tape this, you're going to talk to Coach a little bit later on tonight. But it's nonstop, right? It really condenses things. It's one day, but you give a team Monday off, and then you go Tuesday, Wednesday, ball game, right? This is a big practice for the Sooners over the next 48 hours. But you're right, it's a great time because Skip's team's playing well. They're down in Arlington for the Big 12. They're going to come back and host next week. By that point, you hope Oklahoma's off to a World Series appearance and a showdown with potentially Duke there in the first round, or Missouri. So I'm really excited to see this matchup. I had a feeling all season long that we would see Alabama, and I don't know why. In fact, I even went as far as having one of their radio guys, Tom Canterbury and Gray Robertson, are really, really good at what they do. And I had Gray on this past week, and I'm like, dude, I think we're going to see you. And then the field of 64 comes out, and you're like, only in the World Series, I mean, so it's still possible. But I do like this matchup. I would much rather see, and this could come back to bite me, but I would much rather see Florida State than I would say be paired up with what's going on in Alabama right now. So we'll see how it plays out for the Sooners.
Really weird across all the supers. You got Texas and Texas A&M, huge rivalry, right? That's a super. Tennessee, Alabama, huge rivalry. That's a super. It almost felt like they're like, well, OU and Florida State have that shared history of ending 2 of the last 3 seasons, Lonnie Alameda, right. OU, all that stuff. So it'll be interesting. A lot of familiar faces, Chris, from the Champ Series that you called a year ago. A lot of familiar faces from the Champ Series a couple years ago. Oklahoma fans are going to recognize some of the names that step into the batter's box. Michaela Infield, obviously the phenomenal leader for that Seminoles team. Kaylee Mudge and Kaylee Harding, the two Kayleys, one of them always seems to go yard against the Sooners. You got Devin Flaherty. I think the big thing this weekend, though, is no Kat Sandercock. She's been such a fixture of Florida State softball. It's the freshman lefty Ashton Danley that Oklahoma's going to have to get after. It's an interesting dynamic because so much is the same of a Kelly Maxwell that saw Florida State in a series last year in Stillwater and at the Women's College World Series. Nicole May is going to know a lot of these batters. But you flip that, Florida State won't really know Kirsten Deal, and Oklahoma won't have had firsthand scouting in that batter's box themselves of Danley.
Yeah, which is why I think that first game, that first couple of innings are going to be so huge in this series. And you bring up Danley, the freshman they haven't seen. You know, what is going on with this pitching staff right now for Florida State? Lonnie Alameda is so good at developing pitchers and what she's done historically, but we haven't seen McKenna Reed since late April. And obviously, Oklahoma did a number on her last year during the championship series, but she's had a really good year. I'm trying off the top of my head, 12-1 seem right, but she hasn't pitched since April 20th. Royalty got taken out mid-inning, like the third inning, just weird scenario in last week's Tallahassee regionals. So, you know, it's not like you can't win with just one pitcher, right? But it seems as if I'm going into a series with this offense, with Oklahoma's offense, regardless of how you feel about the BYU game this year, the Lafayette game this year, the OSU and the Texas series, I wouldn't want to go up against this Oklahoma offense with really one healthy, effective arm. Like they're going to, at some point, figure her out. So I'm real intrigued to see what it looks like staff-wise for Florida State this weekend. There's a part of me, Ryan, and you covered this closely 3 years ago when we were going into the postseason. That was when Jordy Ball got hurt, right? She got hurt right before the start of the Big 12 tournament, the final game of the Oklahoma State series. And you kept hearing, well, it's, you know, maybe she can be back by the regionals and maybe she can be back by the supers. And she didn't pitch until the final games of the World Series. So I kind of wonder if that's what's going on right now with the McKenna Reed and with Royalty's been pitching. She's hurt. So I'm intrigued to see what it looks like because it appears as if for a staff that has thrown 5 or 6 pitchers this year, 2 of them and 2 of the most effective seem to be very much battling some sort of injury right now. And I would think even with the experience that Florida State has, that plays in Oklahoma State's favor.
Well, you look at it too, Chris, and it's preparing for the Champ Series last year. Outside of Sandercock, this was one of like the bigger staffs that Oklahoma had to prepare for. They legitimately had thrown 7 arms, at least I think it was 15 or 20 innings, something like that. Now, when you have Sandercock to be kind of the cherry on top, that helps you out a great deal. If you're just going numbers, there's no one on this Florida State staff that has a sub-3 ERA. And so that's not good news when you head into a super with Oklahoma. But here was the same common denominator between whether you look at Louisiana, BYU, the 2 Bedlam games Oklahoma dropped, not the trip to Austin was all 6+ runs given up, right, for Oklahoma. It was the pitching staff that kind of faltered in those losses outside of that trip to Austin. And so it's got to be Kelly Maxwell, Nicole May. I thought the biggest thing for them out of regionals, Chris, wasn't just that they shut down the middle section of both those games against Oregon. It was goose egg, 0 free passes, whether hit by
walks.
pitch, walks, anything like that. That's the 2 things Patty Gasso has hammered, I'm sure, when you talk to her, but certainly when we talk to her, is keep the ball in the yard. If other teams are hitting home runs, our outfield doesn't have a chance to make plays. That's how Patty Gasso views it. And for the love of goodness, do not put free runners aboard, because with Maxwell, the only issue has been it's felt like when there is a walk, that immediately turns into a run. Oh, you did not do that during regionals.
By the way, I want to apologize. I didn't realize that my pillow was here. This is not like my wife doesn't kick me out to my office. I was sitting here last night. I was watching the Florida State game against Auburn just to get prepared for this weekend. So I apologize that my setup looks a little bit like a
Extreme Makeover Plank Edition happening right now.
This looks like single dad. And my daughter comes in the middle of that and wanted to show me an outfit, and you're like, "Come on, we're talking softball here." Yeah, you're right. Those are all the things that coach says in those media settings are the things she tells me. We got to keep the ball in the yard, right? We got to do a better job of not walking and allowing batters to reach free pass nature. So, the only I want to say the only free pass that either Maxwell or May gave up was the hit by pitch from Kelly Maxwell in like the third inning in game one against Oregon State. And she proceeded to mow down like 13 in a row. And it's wild because, Ryan, I saw that Kelly Maxwell that we saw this weekend reminds me a lot of the Kelly Maxwell we saw in this old school here. We're going back a little bit. This is Mexico. When she went to Mexico and came in out of the pen against Washington, it was a boss performance. And then you add to it that she against Duke, which is still one of the best teams I've seen this year. Against Duke, she went out and I think the baseball term I've always heard is she pitched to contact, right? So I think it's one of the most reassuring things for Sooner fans what they saw this last week in the regional with the way that they threw the ball.
Yeah, I think my two big questions from the Oklahoma side. One of them is going to be the continued. The fact of the matter is, Kelly Maxwell, for the most part of this season, conference play, different pitcher out of the pen than she's been from the start. Kirsten Deal, one of the best pitchers in the conference from the start. She comes in.
Don't bring her out of the pen. No,
yeah, totally different. And so that's what Bedlam. You saw Carly Keeney. She was the only pitcher that pitched in Bedlam that didn't give up a run. Or a run that was hers. She inherited the runners in the weird situation that third game. So you had that, and then Nicole May in the Texas Big 12 championship game. She comes in 5 up, 5 down out of the pen. So what do you get? I think that's going to kind of ebb and flow. To me, it reminds me of the 2021, specifically we're talking about the pitchers coming out of the pen. Only that scenario. Right. The Giselle Juarez in 21 of you didn't know which Giselle you were going to get. Was it elite, locked in, better than 2019 Giselle, or was it the one that would leave a couple and then suddenly she was battling confidence? It looked like, obviously by the World Series she had fixed that, but that's like the one big question for me pitching wise is Oklahoma gets a lead, 5th inning, tight game. Can Patty Gasso bring a lockdown closer into the game, or is it going to be an adventure every time you get someone out of the pen?
I think that could be Nicole May's role. I really do. But in that same vein, we had a lot of reaction locally on my show, Ryan, to why didn't we see Kirsten Deal this weekend? And I asked Coach about it this morning, and she said, listen, it's matchups, and it's always going to be about matchups. Kirsten Deal works the ball a little bit more up in the zone. Nicole May works it a little lower. And in that instance, this was a free swing in from their boots Oregon team, which is very similar to Florida State. They do the same thing, but I think you'll see a little bit more of Deal this weekend. With that said, Kirsten Deal out of the pen for whatever reason just has not worked this year. Seemingly everyone else out of the pen has been really good. Kelly Maxwell has good numbers in relief. No one has made more relief appearances than Carly Keeney. That can be good and bad in some stanzas this year. But man, I'm gonna tell you something. I think that if you get to the point where you need, 5 outs, 4 outs, I really think that's going to be a role that someone who has the perspective, attitude, mindset that Nicole May has. I think that could be a really good spot for her. But we'll see. You know this because you cover it and you see it every day. Coach Gasso does not go into these. Coach Rocha does not go into these with the mindset of, all right, here's my Thursday, Friday, Saturday starter, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday starter, and this is my closer, and this is my middle reliever. If they have someone where they feel like, hey, you go back to, and I know it didn't work so well, but go back to Austin. They thought they had a good matchup with Peyton Monticelli right on that Saturday night game. And it didn't materialize, right? She couldn't throw strikes. So they're always going to be about matchups. And I think that's what's going to drive this weekend. And I'll tell you what, you brought it up. Florida State has some experience against Kelly Maxwell. I think it's a really good matchup for Kirsten Deal. I think she could be someone we go from seeing a little bit in the regionals, 0 in the regionals, to being a major player in the super regionals, much like, as you said, G. Juarez, who's on this staff now. She's on the coaching staff. We didn't see her at all in the regionals in 2021, and we didn't see her at all in the super regionals in 2021. And then she got to the World Series and she was unhittable. I think we could see something similar only earlier here with Kirsten Deal this week, and I think we'll see a lot of her.
Now, we've already seen it this year. Carly Keeney, the Bedlam hero, a little bit on Sunday, didn't pitch at all in the Big 12 tournament. And then suddenly Carly Keeney, your first option out. It's just that's how they go. The only thing certain, I think, that Patty Gasso's really locked in right now, she talked with us on Saturday, one of them, it all runs together, about how she's really liking Jada Coleman, Tiare Jennings, Ella Parker, that 1, 2, 3 in some form or fashion at the top of the lineup. And when you've gotten the production you've gotten from there, I thought Cassie Pickering had an awesome regional. I don't know if she's going to get the plaudits because 2 of her RBIs were going to go down as sack flies. So I don't know if people are like, oh, well, she's getting a warning shot. She's doing everything she needed to do to make big contact, move a runner from third. That top of the lineup for Oklahoma feels like the momentum that Oklahoma hoped they grabbed in that Bedlam finale obviously rolled through to the Big 12 tournament, and it's been excellent through 3 games of the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and it's interesting because in bragging about the freshmen, coach doesn't want to get too caught up in, oh yeah, they're sophomores now. Why? She wants them to play free and uninhibited. I think that there has been a process of wanting a little bit more from the senior class this year. And I mean, you even go back to what coach said before or after the Big 12 championship. She goes, I've got a group of seniors. I don't know if they're done with softball. I just don't in their mind if they moved on. But for a weekend, and I think going forward, you saw Jada Coleman that we've seen for the last 3 years. You saw Tiare Jennings that we've seen for the last 3 years. And not that either one of them have not been that. Jada went through a bit of a slump a couple weeks ago. Tiare, was what was it, like 2 for 23, the worst slump of her career. So I really feel like you sense the urgency tick up a little bit this last week. So to see that from Jada and Tiare is great, but the consistency of Ella and Cassidy during this, what are we on now postseason wise? 6-game postseason run, if you include the Big 12, it's pretty unbelievable. I mean, Ella Parker on a team with 7 returning regular starters that won 3 straight national titles is batting in the 3-hole in the season opener and is winning the Big 12 most outstanding player for the Big 12 tournament. I mean, it's incredible. I don't know. I haven't watched enough of some of the other freshmen to be able to say it as from a declarative nature as I can for Ella. I think she's the freshman of the year. I really do. And I think that she is the foundation for this program going forward over the next 4 seasons. She's really going to be special. And it's really cool to see how she's embraced that, right? She's the DP now. Will she be the first baseman in the future? I don't know. She's got some work to do. Could she pitch? I don't know. She's got some work to do. But when it comes to doing her job, and the one thing that matters, which is getting a clutch hit in a big moment, my gosh, she's amazing. So I'm really a big fan of what these freshmen have done because they're definitely not playing like it.
Yeah, we'll see. I bet, unfortunately, this is something that Jocelyn Allo ran into. Since Parker is primarily DPing, that usually gets held against players like that for whatever reason. But I mean, you look at the freshman of the year in the Big 12. I know that I cover Oklahoma, and you are on the radio broadcast, all that stuff. Ella Parker versus Stewart. We could argue it. The numbers look very, very similar, all that stuff. But because Stewart's out there fielding first, only because Ella Parker is playing behind one of the best defensive first basemen in the country, and Sydney Sanders, is that what you're going to ding her for? Maybe. And then with Pickering, like that's someone that Patty Gasso's labeled as like a potential future captain type as far as how unbothered by everything she is in her freshman year. They're just, I don't know what more you can say about that group.
Agreed. I think that it's a situation where you couldn't ask for anything better in deciding that these freshmen coming in, I have faith in them to do the job that we're going to ask them to do. Yeah, Jocelyn Erickson and Sophia Nugent left maybe a little bit later than what would be Erickson for certain, right? But Jocelyn wanted to go somewhere else, and she wanted to catch. and Kinsey Hansen is there. Uh, Kudos to Erickson. She had a great a great first season in Florida. Nugent had a great first year at Tennessee. They're going to do great things, but um, you hate that that's not the core going forward. But you also know that with Ella Parker and with Cassidy Pickering, you're in a good spot. And Maya Blaine, I think. Listen, Nelly and Maya are going to be awesome. All right, they're a product of numbers. Anywhere else in the country, well, Nelly's hurt, but if she's healthy, anywhere else in the country, they're playing right now. They're playing. So that gives you an idea of just how special they have the potential to be too.
Yeah, it should be fun. One name we have brought up, I do want to ask you about this. There have been some ebbs and flows throughout the season. It feels like Sydney Sanders right now is one that has a little bit of ebb, if that's what you
Right.
want to classify it at the plate. It's been a tough slog for her for a month and a half or so. We saw that manifest in Alina Torres playing first, Avery Hodge slotting in there in second. Do you think that Patty Gasso might look at the defensive matchups and opt for Sydney Sanders and try to just let her work out of that? Because we saw what she was as a freshman, obviously, but last year she started slow, and then that last month of the season she caught fire. It's just been up and down after she had a moment where it felt like every game she was hitting a home run there for 3 weeks.
11 games, 8 home runs. 8 home runs in the span of 8 games, and she didn't hit a home run in one of those games. It's just that's how hot she was. At the kind of cusp of the start of Big 12 play, she had 500 during that 11 game stretch. It was amazing. She was the Pac-12 freshman of the year at Arizona State. She was amazing, and she struggled last year, and she's struggled outside of that 11 game stretch. You take away that 11 game stretch, she's chasing the Mendoza line. But Ryan, I'm going to tell you what I tell everybody that asks about her. I don't go to a lot of BP early in the season just because Coach, I think, gets enough of me. She's around me enough with pregame and postgame interviews. But I've gone a lot more the latter half of this year. She crushes it. I mean, bro, she hammers it. So in other words, when you're watching it and you're seeing it and you see the struggles, that doesn't compute to what I just watched in batting practice, right? And before you get Johnny Baseball, not the real life Johnny Baseball on Twitter for OU, but you're like diehard baseball fan that's like, of course she crushes it in batting practice. They lob softballs to her. OU's BP is a little different. They got 3 different stages, and one of those stages is a pitching machine that throws like 86 different pitches. I mean, it's moving all over the place. So it's not just soft toss. And then you got a live arm that she's hitting off of. And right, she's crushing it. So I can't even imagine what that's like for Coach Gasso because it's there. The possibility and potential is there. It just unfortunately hasn't panned out for Sid Sanders. But I think she's your go-to. I think she's going to get the start on Thursday and Friday, Saturday. And I think they're going to count on her going forward because as soon as she gets going, look out. I thought the single in the 7th against Texas might be the start of something. Unfortunately, it hasn't been. But I'm a firm believer that she's going to go out and she's going to have a good run down the stretch.
Good news is that like her eye hasn't faltered as she's sometimes when you get into a slump like that, you start chasing, undisciplined. Her walk numbers are still really good. It's just that everything else when she's not done that. But
if her on base percentage was where it is, if she didn't walk as much and had more strikeouts, if her on base percentage wasn't where it was, she wouldn't be playing.
Yeah,
and that's why she still get more of an opportunity to work through it.
So it'll be interesting to see. Not a ton of other like big lineup decisions, but as we kind of take a step back, look at this. Chris, you've been there. You've called all these Oklahoma, Florida State battles. When you think like Oklahoma, Florida State, this last couple, 3-4 years, what are one or two of those moments that come to mind for you that kind of define what this series and these two teams have been?
Florida State celebrating like they won the national title when they won the first game of the series. What was that in 21? That resonated with me. G had just started to click and they beat us. You're like, what just happened? And as soon as they went out and they started like Gatorade showering and high five, I was like, oh, we're going to win this series. It's just, there was no doubt in my mind. Their mission had been accomplished. Monty Alameda calling them the, what was the term? The evil empire. Alex Storako getting the start in game 2 to the surprise of everyone last year over Jordy. It's just there's so many. It's wild that they've played, I want to say only 5 times, but all 5 games have been so huge because they've been for a national title 5 times over the last 5 years. I'm sorry, 5 times over the last 8 years. I want to say it is.
They had that one midweek a year ago, Tuesday
yes.
night after playing like South Dakota State or something. So
Right,
they played
right.
5 of those at the World Series.
That's crazy.
In the championship.
And what's funny is you go back to that midweek, and that was one of the first times where you saw kind of pitching by committee against the Sooners, right? It's like, we're not going to let you see our pitchers anymore, so we're going to throw a lot of different arms at you. Lonnie spent some time here at Oklahoma. She was a Sooner, but in that same vein, she's created something really special at Florida State. So I just, I think about Riley Boone and the impact she had in these games. I think that could be a big factor for Oklahoma going forward. But yeah, it's the best of the best. And it's crazy to me that it's happening in the Super Regional and not in the World Series. That's the crazy thing about all this.
Hey, got to roll out the red carpet for Love's Field. Year 1, first regional. What do you get? Lombardi, Sid Romero, Sam Martyr, bring the family back together. And now you're going to get the series that has kind of defined the post-COVID era of softball. Because it's been, again, we've contested 3 national championships. These 2 teams have played for 2 of those 3. Should be a ton of fun. Chris, I know that you're the busiest guy around. Thank you so much for taking some time to hop on.
No, you got more? I got to mow after this. I got to go mow after this. My mower is right back here. I've got to mow. So if you need more, you let me know. But I appreciate you having me on. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, outside of obviously you can listen to him on the call of the game. Chris, let me clear out your 90 seconds to chuck the 500 things that you do excellently.
See how you do. Thank you. We have Saturday mornings on Sirius XM College Sports Radio Channel 84 every day from 7 to 10, or every Saturday from 7 to 10 I do a local show. You can find it on the Ref. I don't compete with Ryan. He's on in a different time slot. And I'm just, Sunday nights on Fox Sports Radio. If I don't mention Arnie, he'll get mad, but that's 10P to 1A. So we have a lot of fun with it. He's an Arizona guy, so we've had an unfortunate back and forth recently. But yeah, it's fun to stay involved, and it's fun to spread the word of this great sport, man. I appreciate all your coverage and all you guys do over there with Hoove at all, Sooners.com. I'm grateful for it.
Hey, we'll be out there again Thursday, Friday, and selfishly for you and I, this is the only chance we have to get a Saturday, Sunday off from like February through mid to late June. So could we, whatever happens, to just
listen?
Stick on
it's
Thursday
my anniversary.
Friday?
It's my wife and I's 16-year anniversary. So I would love to have Saturday off so that I can take her to like Cattleman's or somewhere fancy. So let's go. Let's get it done. Let's 2-Q these Florida State Seminoles.
Yeah, you heard the man. Make sure it's, again, 2 games so that we can have, that's the important thing, that Chris and I get to have a Saturday off. But
Give
Chris,
me my Saturday
out there
off.
Field. Thank you so much, man.
Thanks, Ryan. See you, buddy.
Big thank you again to Chris. Fit me in between mowing and all the radio that he does. Nicest guy out there, best guy in the biz. The Chris you listen to, the Chris you guys see, truly is the best. So thankful to him. But that'll do it. Thursday, 6 p.m. That's when Oklahoma and Florida State will meet. Game 2 Friday at 7 p.m. If those get split, then on Saturday they will reconvene. That time is to be determined later in the week. If not, either Oklahoma on Friday will clinch another trip to the Women's College World Series. They can try to win a 4th straight title, or the ride will come to an end at the hands of Florida State. We'll find out Thursday and Friday at Love's Field. And as always, we've got you covered. Just this last weekend alone, game stories, recaps, all the side storylines, dove into all those, previews of each game. We had highlights of 2 to 3 regional games. We had a photo gallery for one of the games. Be sure you're headed to si.com/college/Oklahoma. That is the place to be. Myself, Ryan Chapman, John Hoover doing a great job, Bryce McKinnis writing some great stories, Randall Sweet, everybody chipping in as OU softball looks to win their 4th straight national title, and that will continue Thursday night, Florida State, 6 p.m. Love's Field. I'll be there. I hope you'll be at the website, follow along with everything we do, and until next week, where we'll either put a bow on the season or preview the Women's College World Series, come on back to John Hoover Media on YouTube to find out.